February 21, 2019 regular meeting of the Fairfax County School Board will now come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, and the performance of the national anthem by the Kilmer Symphonic Orchestra under the direction of Elizabeth Fogel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know Mr. McElveen is coming to the table to offer his great thanks for the wonderful performance.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's why you were rushing. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kilmer Middle School.
Mr. McElveen, weren't you going to say that you were a Kilmer grad? You went to Kilmer?
Yes, I was part of this ensemble 20 years ago.
Okay,
So,
good,
very
good.
proud,
They,
yeah.
they needed to hear that.
We talked beforehand.
So, in order to comply with Section 2.2, 3712D of the Code of Virginia, it is necessary for the board to certify that since the Fairfax County School Board convened a closed meeting on February 21st, 2019, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board during the closed meeting. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Moon, seconded by Mr. McElveen. All those in favor? And that is unanimous, with Ms. McLaughlin and Ms. Schultz away from the board, who will not be. Neither of these ladies will be here tonight because of other family engagements. So, 3.03, announcements. A few other announcements before we begin tonight's meeting. Item 5.02, motion to amend the 2019-2020 calendar, has been rescheduled to the March 7th, 2019 regular meeting. Item 7.02, award of contract, automatic temperature control system replacement at Rose Hill Elementary School, has been removed from the agenda. And as I mentioned, Ms. McLaughlin will be absent this evening. If you would like to review a copy of the agenda and any agenda item that is being discussed tonight, that information is on the table by the auditorium entrance. Tonight's agenda is available by going to School Board on the FCPS homepage and selecting Board Docs under the upcoming board meetings. The meeting is also being streamed live online. Select School Board from the full menu, then click on the Watch Live button on the School Board Meetings webpage. Please turn off or silence your cell phones. Mr. Tigner is ill tonight, so I call on Ms. Hines for his announcements.
Well, I will do my best to stand in for Mr. Tigner. We miss you tonight, Benny. I'm sorry you don't feel well. We hope you're healthy again quickly. The announcements for tonight are Read Across America Day is March 2nd, 2019. That is coming up soon. The National Education Association's Read Across America Day, now in its 20th year, is an annual reading motivation and awareness program that calls for every child in every community to celebrate reading on or around Dr. Seuss's birthday. This year's celebration is based on the theme, Grab Your Hat and Read with the Cat, to encourage students to delve into books, to learn as much as possible while becoming lifelong readers. In cities and towns across the nation, teachers, teenagers, librarians, politicians, actors, athletes, parents, grandparents, and others develop NEA's Read Across America activities to bring reading excitement to children of all ages. We are also soon to celebrate National Foreign Language Week, March 3rd through 9th. The week of March 3rd through 9th, 2019 has been designated as National Foreign Language Week. The Alpha Mu Gamma Foreign Language Honor Society has sponsored National Foreign Language Week since 1957, and the theme for 2019 is Languages are the Key to the World. Schools are encouraged to use this opportunity to highlight the value of learning world languages and learning about other cultures, and to celebrate the successes of world language students and teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Before I go on to the recognition on the agenda, I'm going to pass the gavel over to Mr. Moon so that I can make a resolution.
Call on Chairman Corbett Sanders.
Yes. I have a resolution honoring the School Board Clerk Appreciation Week. Whereas school board clerks in each locality throughout our great Commonwealth are appointed by law to fulfill their duties and responsibilities, and whereas the school board clerks are responsible for keeping accurate records of the meetings and proceedings of the school board, a record of all receipts and disbursements, and a record of all official acts, and whereas the school board clerks maintain frequent contact with the public, including parents, employees, and media, on behalf of the school board and division superintendent, and whereas the school board clerks, in the performance of their duties, are often required to work extra hours attending the school board meetings, and whereas the Fairfax County School Board joins the Virginia School Board Association in recognizing the many and varied contributions of school board clerks, now therefore be it resolved, at its meeting on the 21st day of February 2019, the Fairfax County School Board officially recognizes our 3 clerks with appreciation for their hard work to support each of us, as well as our numerous school board meetings. We extend our sincere gratitude to each of you for making our jobs easier and more manageable. We would be lost without you. I so move.
Is there a second? Seconded by everybody at the table? All those in favor, raise your hand. The vote is obviously unanimous with the 2 members absent. Returning the gavel back to Madam Chair.
So at the request of our very humble clerks, we are not going to be taking a picture tonight because they are always fully supportive of everything we do and don't want to call attention to themselves. So before we go on to the next item on the agenda, I do want to offer my heartfelt thanks for all that you do. You ladies are truly amazing, and we appreciate you, not only during School Clerk Appreciation Week, but every day. Thank you. I now call on Ms. Keys Gamarra for a recognition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in honor of Black History Month. Whereas the month of February is the time that we as a nation recognize Black History Month, and the Fairfax County School System is an educational institution designed to further the education of children from kindergarten through high school, preparing them for adulthood, productive, and healthy lives. And whereas the first Africans arrived on the shores of Virginia 400 years ago, some of whom were indentured servants who established a community and began contributing to the founding of this nation, and all children benefit from gaining a full knowledge of the contributions of their fellow Americans. And whereas the institution of slavery in this continent commenced out of economic convenience to gain work from those of African descent without compensation, and the institution of slavery was codified into Virginia law, arising from such lawsuits as Johnson v. Parker, which allowed an employer to convert the status of an African indentured servant to that of a slave. And whereas the history of African Americans in Virginia and the nation is currently discussed largely in terms of slavery, and African American contributions are an integral part of Virginia history, Africans came to the shores of Virginia having developed skills that were used to enrich our state and our nation. And these Africans came from rich cultures, traditions, and loving families. And whereas African Americans have participated in the founding of this nation and its culture despite the obstacles of slavery, discrimination, and institutionalized patterns of disparity, including such great Americans as Crispus Attucks, who was one of the many African American patriots who fought in the Revolutionary War, Phyllis Wheatley, a well-known early American poet, Benjamin Banneker, a mathematician, astronomer, and an early architect of our nation's capital, Charles Drew, a doctor who established the procedure for the removal of plasma and blood transfusions, as well as Mary Jackson, a native Virginian who worked as a mathematician and aerospace engineer. Ms. Jackson was recently featured in the movie Hidden Figures and is credited with helping to launch the first American satellite. And whereas those of African descent have lived in and contributed to the development and advancement of Fairfax County since its inception, as is evidenced by the establishment of communities and organizations as early as 1833, including the Tenor Hill Heritage Foundation, which was established to preserve the rich cultural heritage of pioneering African Americans who fought racial segregation and established the nation's first rural branch of the NAACP in a Northern Virginia neighborhood where Africans bought land and worked to build a positive community environment for all of its citizens, and the Gum Springs community, established in 1833 by Wes Ford, a former slave who obtained land to provide a sanctuary for free and self-emancipated Africans who then built their school, home, and their church. And whereas Fairfax County is home to such great African Americans as Supervisor Catherine Hudgens, who was elected in 1999 and has been recognized for her outstanding dedication and pioneering initiatives to foster and build inclusive, quality communities for all. Now therefore be it resolved that the Fairfax County Public Schools hereby officially recognizes Black History Month in appreciation for the contributions of great Americans who have worked tirelessly and often without recognition for the advancement of our state and our nation. At this time, I would like to invite, I'm sorry, would you like comments at this time? Okay. At this time, I would like to, a motion. I so move.
Seconded by Ms. Colbert Sanders. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. I don't know why I'm still having the gavel.
I won't comment further because I think that I put all my comments in the resolution, but I'll certainly allow my colleagues to do so.
So, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, thank you so much for this wonderful recognition. It is a great history lesson for all of us at the dais, and I hope it's a history lesson for all the students who are watching at home, as well as our teachers who may use part of it as part of their curriculum going forward. I have a number of members of the board who are indicating they'd like to speak, and I'll start with Ms. Strauss.
Thank you very much. It is, this is always a very important commemoration and a history lesson. And I am very proud that one of the elementary schools in my district, Lutie Lewis Coates, was named for an important African-American educator who was here at Luther Jackson in the days of segregation. And her family lived on a farm in much of the area where Coates Elementary now is. And Sheila Coates, whose family we also honor, and she was also one of the founding members of Black Women United. But we were very, very proud to be able to name that school for an outstanding African-American educator. And we will be celebrating 10 years of the opening of that school, and hopefully we will have some of the Coates families again to be able to come. I know every year we have a special celebration, but that was a proud step in Fairfax County Public Schools to officially name a school for Lutie Lewis Coates. It was good.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. Ms. Evans?
Yes, thank you. I want to say how happy I am to be supporting this resolution. It comes at a critical time in our country and in our county as well. I want to certainly support everything that Ms. Keys-Gamarra said in her resolution and add in terms of history, it did take our schools too long to desegregate. I am proud that 2 of the first 3 Black children to go into previously all-white schools did so in Mason District at Belvedere Elementary School, and that we have recognized that, and we recognize people who moved us forward when we renamed Justice High School as well. We are in our first year of having the name changed from Confederate General to Justice High School, recognizing Justice Thurgood Marshall, Barbara Rose Johns, 2 wonderful and icons, civil rights icons, who moved us forward in the desegregation efforts of that era, as well as Colonel Luis Mendez, who fought in World War II very bravely. So we have recognized those icons as part of our changing the name at Justice High School, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that as part of Black History Month. So thank you.
Ms. Derenak-Kovacs?
I just want to thank Ms. Keys-Gamarra for this resolution. Some of these things I was not aware of, so thank you. I see you worked hard on that to provide us with lessons on Virginia history or re-lessons, so I really do appreciate that, and I am happy to support this.
Mr. McElveen?
Thank you, and I am also grateful to my fellow at-large colleague, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, for bringing forward this important resolution. And as my colleagues have eloquently stated, we are at a time of reckoning of past deeds and misdeeds that have been committed in our Commonwealth and in our country. And I think it has fallen to those of us who hold positions like the positions we have on this school board to correct for those past misdeeds. And I do believe we have moved the needle forward as a board, and I think that's something that we can be proud of. There's certainly more work to be done, and my colleague, Ms. Derenak-Kovacs from the Lee District, has certainly put our minds to that continuing effort. And then finally, I do want to recognize Supervisor Hudgens, who was my supervisor for many years growing up. I'm glad that we're recognizing her as part of this. She became Hunter Mill supervisor when I was in middle school, when I was part of that ensemble we heard from. And she has truly led both her district and our county in such a fantastic way over the past 2 decades, and I know we're all grateful for her service.
Ms. Palchik.
Thank you. I also want to thank Ms. Keys-Gamarra, and I especially want to thank you for helping us focus on so many of the positive developments in history and members of our community who've brought so much. I also, almost every time we sit here now in Luther Jackson Middle School, think about how it was once Luther Jackson High School during segregation, I believe the first African-American high school here in Fairfax County. In addition, down the street in my community, the Pines, was a community that was taken from an African-American community, and all that remains is a cemetery and now a community park. So, oh, and finally, the Tinner Hill community, which was divided, as you know, between the City of Falls Church and Fairfax County, and the small portion that still remains in Providence District in Fairfax has many of the descendants of the original owners and founders of Tinner Hill. Still very strong and very proud, and I'm proud that they are my constituents. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who's here, including our wonderful supervisor who is retiring after many years of service to the county. And I hope that as we go through this very challenging time here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and in Fairfax County, that we can do more to celebrate, to understand our history, and to figure out how to continue to break some of these barriers and support our kids and our families here in Fairfax County. So thank you. I'm very happy to support this.
Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to thank Mrs. Keys-Gamarra for bringing this motion forward, this resolution, and in my own life experience to thank those in my life, African Americans, who influenced me greatly, and particularly when I was in the service. The unit I was in, my particular office, I was the only non-black soldier in that office. So I can remember the great humor that my boss, Captain Keys, brought to all of the challenges we faced. This was right after Desert Storm's deployment and return home. And Sergeant First Class Hall, who was miraculously able to manage the logistics of our unit, despite my efforts as a young lieutenant to get in his way. And Staff Sergeant Harris, a woman who was stunningly smart and incredibly tough and plain-spoken. And some days that was difficult for me as a graduate, recent graduate from college, and quite overconfident in some of my own skills and abilities. And Sergeant Wilson, who shared the name with me, but was much more patient and taught me a lot about patience in trying to get problems solved. So all of those people I'd like to thank, even though I know they're not watching tonight. But I'd also like to congratulate and reach out to my niece, Marta, who is African American and lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and she has impressed me in her own young life with great bravery in terms of just how she approaches her life on a day-to-day basis. So thank you very much.
And Ms. Hines.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Ms. Keys-Gamarra. I don't think we've ever done this month as well as you just did it for us, so thank you. And I'm especially grateful that you mentioned my supervisor, Kathy Hudgens. When you were in middle school, Mr. McElvain, I was helping Kathy on her campaign, and I was already a mother, so there's a little age difference here, but actually Kathy's campaign was the first time I got involved in local politics because I was so convinced that we needed her voice, and it was a contested election against an incumbent. So it was definitely not a sure thing, and the whole campaign worked hard. And now that Kathy is retiring from the board, it is really hard to imagine all these years later, Hunter Mill District without Kathy as our elected leader. It will be very different. But I know that Kathy's not going anywhere, so she will continue to be a leader in the community. Hunter Mill, I think, is also important in this conversation because the two primary communities in Hunter Mill are Reston and Vienna. And Reston, and Kathy will tell you this, she and her family settled there back in the 70s, I believe, at a time in Fairfax County where to be an African-American family, there were not a lot of places where you felt comfortable, where you felt welcome. But Reston was designed 50 plus years ago to be diverse and to be integrated. That was the goal, way back in 1960. So it's always been a place, I think Reston has been a beacon to this whole community in how to do that right. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Kathy comes from there and leads from there. And Vienna, my kids actually went to school at Louise Archer Elementary. And for those who don't know, Louise Archer was an African-American educator who came out to Vienna, which at that time was basically some dairy farms. She began a school that at the time was called the Vienna Colored School, because this was before we were desegregated. And the students and parents at the school eventually named the school for her because she was so beloved. And that history of that neighborhood and that school is still there, and we try to preserve it. So there's so much about Hunter Mill, even more than that is important in this conversation. And I would just close by saying, I do think we as a community, we as a school board, I think could do a better job of teaching our county's history on this, the desegregation time. I know that Arlington County recently did a special program on their desegregation, and it was very nice. And there's some people in the community who have suggested that maybe we should do the same thing. And I think this is a call for us to do that much more. So thank you.
And with that, Mr. Moon, I'm sorry.
Just briefly, Madam Chair. I'm not necessarily a meaning to pick on you, Mr. McAlvin, but back in 1999, when you were at Kilmer Middle School, I was a school board member. And I was happy to see Supervisor Kathy Hutchins becoming the first African-American supervisor in the history of Fairfax County. And I want to note my personal gratitude for your long years of service. With that, I also want to thank my colleague, my at-large colleague, Ms. Karen Kiskamara, for crafting something as beautiful as this. There were things in your resolution that I did not know, just like perhaps some other colleagues of mine on the board. So thanks for teaching us this evening. But I also want to note one very important fact, that the advancement of civil rights fought hard by many African American civil rights activists did not just benefit African Americans. It benefited all Americans, and especially someone like me. An Asian American was considered to be a person of color. And thank you.
They caught me. I want to thank my colleagues for indulging me in going down this path of describing African American history. In light of some recent events in our state, I thought that it was important that we understood and we talked about the roots of how the state was established. And I know that there are many people who have contributed to the greatness of who we are as a state and as a nation. But it is one of my concerns that African American children often open up textbooks and they don't find a lot of people that look like them. I often ask the question, who is their Marco Polo? And oftentimes our history, the way that we approach history, African American history in this country, is from the standpoint of the slave ship, and that's unfortunate. And so, yes, Ms. Hines, you did read between the lines. This is a challenge to do a better job, because not only do we need to talk about Virginia history, but we need to talk about where folks came from and how they contributed. And so thank you so much for bearing with me as I went through paragraph after paragraph to make sure that I gave a broad perspective, so I want to thank you. And I also want to thank Kathy Hudgens, our dear supervisor who is retiring this year. She has been a hero of mine, and I know so many people here for standing and for equity for all long before One Fairfax. And so I thought that it was perfect to honor her. And so with that, I think I have some words I'm supposed to say. At this time, I would like to invite Fairfax County Supervisor, the Honorable Catherine Hudgens, and the members of the audience who have joined us tonight to recognize Black History Month to join the board at the dais for a photo.
I now call on Ms. Evans for the recognition of National Social Worker Month.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my distinct pleasure to read this recognition. Whenever we talk about caring culture, which is one of our goals, it's hard to imagine anyone who embodies that goal more than our social workers. So I'm very, very pleased to read this recognition of National Social Work Month. March is National Social Work Month, and School Social Worker Week is March 4th to 8th. This year's National Association of Social Workers theme is Elevate Social Work. School social workers are trained to examine and address life's problems in a holistic way. They empower students and families, giving them the ability to solve problems, cope with personal roadblocks, and access the resources they need to succeed. Social workers tackle some of the toughest challenges facing our society. In every city and every community, they develop solutions to increase access to both mental health and physical health care, reduce poverty, eliminate injustices, and protect vulnerable children from harm. The services of school social workers are needed now more than ever as they invest their time and expertise to promote equity and address barriers to learning. School social workers play a vital role in helping students meet the academic, social, and emotional challenges on the road to becoming successful and productive young adults. School social workers are valuable members of school multidisciplinary teams, along with providing a wide range of services to students, parents, and faculty. School social workers are professionally trained to understand the needs of students who present with difficulties that interfere with learning, and have expertise in many areas including mental health, human development and behavior, trauma and family systems. They increase student engagement by fostering positive relationships and creating hope and opportunity for youth and families in need. School social workers in Fairfax County Public Schools use their training, expertise, and skills to provide services to children, families, and school staff members in an effort to remove personal and environmental obstacles for optimal student academic performance. They are committed to helping every child achieve, promote academic success, and mental health wellness for all. Please join me in welcoming our social workers who are here this evening up to the dais for a photograph with the board. Thank you so much for all you do.
In recognition of National Athletic Training Month, I call on Mr. McElveen.
Thank you. It's my honor to read the recognition of National Athletic Training Month. March is National Athletic Training Month, and this year's theme is ATS Our Healthcare, an appropriate slogan reflecting the important role certified athletic trainers employed by Fairfax County Public Schools play in keeping our students safe. Through educational programs for students, parents, and coaches, preseason sports screenings, and emergency planning, these nationally certified and state-licensed medical professionals are dedicated to promoting the health and safety of our student athletes before, during, and after practices and competitions. The athletic healthcare services provided by certified athletic trainers include the prevention, recognition, evaluation, treatment, and rehabilitation of athletic injuries and illness. FCPS continues to be recognized as a leader in adolescent injury epidemiology research and sports-related concussion management for high school athletes. Our athletic trainers work collaboratively with parents, school staff, and community medical providers to promote safe participation for over 27,000 athletic participants each year. In fact, during the 2017-18 school year, over 9,600 individual students received care from an FCPS athletic trainer, accounting for over 78,000 total visits to our 25 athletic training facilities. FCPS is nationally recognized as a leader among high school athletic training programs. In 2017, each FCPS high school was once again designated as a first-team safe sports school through the National Athletic Trainers Association, the second time all 25 schools have been recognized in this fashion. At this time, I would like to invite the athletic trainers who are here with us this evening to please join me at the dais for a photo with the board.
Sorry. Don't know why I have to do that.
Huh?
Don't know why I have to do that, but it's good.
Do what? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight.
In recognition of Women's History Month, I call on Ms. Daranack Kofax for the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm honored to read the resolution honoring Women's History Month and the International Women's Day. Whereas the struggle for voting rights for women or suffrage began in 1848 at a women's rights convention held in Seneca Falls, New York, and was led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, and sped across the country while facing opposition and jail time for supporters, some of whom were incarcerated in Lorton, Virginia. And whereas the Lorton Corrections Facility, known as the Occoquan Workhouse, housed 72 women suffragettes, many of whom were force-fed as hunger strikers and would go on to set the course of the nation as they marched in Washington, D.C., demanding the vote despite public outrage, ridicule, imprisonment, and abuse. And whereas heroes like Susan B. Anthony, who traveled the country giving speeches to persuade people to support women's right to vote, Alice Paul, who led demonstrations, hunger strikes, and picketed the White House and was jailed for her efforts, but whose leadership was instrumental to the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920, giving women the right to vote. And Alan Glasgow, a Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist from Virginia whose writings promoted women's right to vote, all played an integral role in our history. And whereas the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial will be built in Occoquan Regional Park, Fairfax, Virginia, a part of the historical prison grounds where the infamous Occoquan Workhouse was located, to honor the scores of the silent sentinel suffragists ages 19 to 73 who were unjustly imprisoned there, were humiliated, kept in inhumane conditions, locked in solitary confinement, and severely beaten. And whereas the centennial anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment is approaching in 2020, and March is Women's National Women's History Month, and March 8th is recognized as International Women's Day. It is time to honor the struggles of the brave women who dedicate much of their lives to gaining the right to vote in this country. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairfax County School Board, on behalf of the Fairfax County Commission for Women and all of its residents, hereby proclaims March 2019 as Women's History Month, as time to remember and honor the countless women who fought relentlessly for the rights of all women in our great nation. I so move.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Hines. Ms. Derenak-Kofax, would you like to speak to your resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would. When I was first elected as a member of the school board nearly 8 years ago, I found myself due to another commitment at the Lorton Workhouse. And as I was touring the workhouse facilities while waiting for my daughter, I came upon a one-room history museum. The museum chronicled how suffragettes were incarcerated and force-fed during their hunger strike. It's not a huge display, but the impact it had on me was monumental. As I read the stories and saw the displays for the first time, pictures of the suffragettes, how they were humiliated, how they were treated inhumanely, I became very emotional. These women, they did this for me. They did this for my daughter. And not only so I could vote, but at that time, I was just newly elected. I was actually elected to have a real seat at the table. I felt like I wanted to speak to them. I wanted to thank them. And it was a moment of recognition that was quite unexpected for me in an afternoon where I was merely trying to pass time. I share this story with you because it is imperative to take the time to remember, maybe not in a happenstance way, but with true honor for the women who paved the roads before us, to thank them and to reflect on how different it might be had they not been so courageous. Women have come a long way and have made tremendous progress, but there's still much to do. Sadly, today, February 21st, 2019, legislators in Richmond blocked ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment, a proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution designed to guarantee equal rights for all American citizens, regardless of sex. Just one more state, a 38th state, was needed in order for this amendment to become part of our Constitution. And sadly, Virginia will not have that honor. March is Women's History Month, as I said, and March 8th is International Women's History Day. I am hopeful that during the month of March, many of our teachers will incorporate into their lesson plans the recognition, observation, and celebration of women and the vital roles women have played in American history and how they will continue to make history. Now, please join. Ms. Hines, I'm sorry. Second.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Derenak-Kofax. I so appreciate your motion and your emotional words. I guess we all, as women, have a story about when it occurred to us that we do ride on the shoulders of others for whom it was not so easy. I mean, I remember my first days working at a large law firm in New York. The women who were a few years older than I was and were bucking for partner in a very competitive world, they never had lunch. They worked harder than everybody else. They hardly ever saw their children. It was really, really hard for them. But they knew they had to be head and shoulders better than everybody else. There was no shortcuts, no half-stepping ever. And my life, I feel like, has been easier. And I think that's because of what they did, of the path that they laid. I know that in this school system, we work hard. We are committed to empowering girls and women in the school system, and we'll continue to do that. There's certainly a lot of good news, but we are still behind. We have not yet had a woman President of the United States. I mean, and I think it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg was recently asked, well, how many women do you think should be on the Supreme Court? And she said, well, 9. Because for how many hundreds of years have there been 9 men? At what point do we sort of say, okay, well, we've righted the ship, right? We could continue to empower and promote women for a very long time and not be overdoing it, is sort of my opinion. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Before we take a vote, I just want to thank Ms. Derenak-Kofax for this resolution. I want to also, I see this resolution is very closely aligned with the resolution that Ms. Keys-Gamarra offered a few minutes ago, because this is really about recognizing the rich history and the challenges people before us have faced, and the importance of including that in our education, and not only educating our kids, but educating ourselves on these important issues and the rich history that women and Blacks have made in contributing to why Fairfax County is where it is today. And so both of you, ladies, thank you so much for this excellent work, and for reminding us about how important it is for us to know our past, know our history, because without knowing our history, we can't shape the future in changing the trajectory we're on to be more positive. So now I have more people at the board. Mr. Moon?
I just wanted to quickly note that look at the leadership on the school board. Women are doing quite well in Fairfax.
Yes. And Mr. McElveen?
Yes, so Ms. Derenak-Kofax, in her very powerful resolution, did refer to the negative news emanating from Richmond today. But I do think it's important for us to take time to reflect on what we have done here at the local level on behalf of women. And we know that school boards are part of their communities. They see social issues come to them before they come to the wider community. And I think our board has shown true leadership. Just to name a few issues, we've taken action on sex trafficking prevention. We've taken action on sexual misconduct prevention. We changed our dress code last year to be fairer in how we dole out those kind of punishments. We've adopted protections for our LGBTQ students and employees. All of these things show the leadership of this board and reflect why I'm so proud to be part of this community and this school system.
Thank you. And Ms. Palchik?
Yes, thank you. As we were preparing for tonight, I was thinking about an interview I had just yesterday with one of our AP research students here in Fairfax County, and it was helpful. It forced me to reflect a little bit more on how I got to the point to decide to run for office, and thinking about growing up always in two cultures, born in Argentina, grew up here, and always felt that, I had more rights here as a woman, and at the same time I was shocked that the U.S. had never had a female president, whereas Argentina had, at this point, more than one. So I think following on Mr. McElveen's words, I think there's a lot that's been disappointing and disheartening in the past week and months and years, but I, for one, have been just in admiration to see so many young women, women of color, other immigrant women getting involved at the local level, run for office, trained to run for office, and now to see, I believe, the largest number of female presidential candidates we've ever had. And so there is a lot of work to do. I appreciate that we've had such a long history of that struggle here in Fairfax County. And I'm just very excited to see all the girls and the women who will come out of Fairfax County and continue to be strong leaders. So very happy to support this. I appreciate Ms. Derenak-Kofax for bringing this forward, and excited to see what the future brings ahead for women in the U.S.
And with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Ms. Derenak-Kofax's resolution? And that is unanimous.
Thank you, and please join me in welcoming Michelle Mueller, Coordinator with Domestic and Sexual Violence Services, along with Kayla Rothstein, Helen Cole, Michelle Russell, and Emily McCoy, members of the Commission on Women, to the dais for a photo with the board.
I now call on Mrs. Strauss for a resolution honoring Kevin Sneed.
Thank you. This evening, we are honoring Kevin Sneed, who has served Fairfax County Public Schools for over 3 decades. Mr. Sneed, would you please come down to the front? You have to be close to us tonight, Kevin, while we honor you. Before I read the resolution, I have a brief history of Kevin Sneed. Kevin Sneed first came to Fairfax County in 1966 at the age of 2. He attended Fairfax County Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade, first at Kings Park Elementary, then Flint Hill Elementary, Thoreau Middle, and finally Madison High School. We educated him well. He attended Longwood, where he met his future wife, earning a degree in psychology. Upon graduation, he applied for and was offered a job by the federal government. But his roommate's father was one of the owners of a local construction company and offered him a job because they wanted to grow larger and felt they needed a college-educated field person. They recognized talent immediately. Kevin had never worked in construction. He did grow up in Vienna, after all. But the pay was nearly double than the government job he was offered, and he had a college loan to pay off. Within a year, Kevin was a superintendent and constructed Crossfield Elementary School. At the completion of the project, Kevin went to work for FCPS 31 years ago in 1988 as a field construction representative. Although there was interest in moving Kevin into the office, he remained a field construction representative so he could learn all the aspects of construction, as he did not feel he would manage without knowing as much as possible. Project-based learning. During his 11 years in the field, Kevin completed projects at 31 of our schools. These projects ranged from full renovations and additions, capacity enhancement additions, roof replacements, the first network systems here in FCPS, fire alarm systems, asbestos abatement, and installation of air conditioning at various sites. 20 years ago, Kevin finally moved into the design and construction office. He worked as a project manager for 2 years, then as the coordinator of project management for an additional 2 years, and then assistant director for another 2 years. In 2006, Kevin became director of design and construction. In 2014, FCPS made Kevin the special projects administrator, overseeing both design and construction and the planning office. Over the past 20 years, Kevin has been involved with or overseen the design and construction of FCPS facilities with a value of more than $2.7 billion, totaling nearly 16.8 million square feet of space. This total includes 15 new schools, 103 renovation projects, including 18 of our 25 high schools, and 31 additions. In addition, design and construction has added more than 35 modular additions, as well as 42 turf fields over his tenure there as well. Although each project offers unique challenges and measures of success, the most challenging or highly successful from his perspective was the reconstruction of Dogwood Elementary School in 2002. It took only 10 months after that school burned to the ground one night. The replacement of the collapsed roof at Flores, you fixed it in 1 week. Design and construction operating as the general contractor for the Woodson High School renovations, saving more than $16 million. The renovation of TJ, especially the incorporation of new designs, and finally, the construction of Bailey's Upper. 6 weeks of design, 20 weeks of construction, the first time we rehabbed an office building. It was amazing. In addition to the extensive capital projects, Kevin and his office have led the way regarding sustainable construction. Under his leadership, design and construction became the first locality in the United States to create a sustainable standard. The Collaborative for High Performance Schools, or CHIPS, is a partnership, both the learning and is a partnership which focuses upon the construction of K-12 learning institution. It emphasizes both the learning and global environment. The standard, which was created by FCPS, is now in use throughout the state. Our CHIP standard not only includes requirements regarding the design and construction aspect of the project, but post-occupancy behavior as well. In other words, we build for children and students. FCPS has led the way in this regard through one of the first geothermal buildings in the area, Glasgow Middle School. We also have Mason Crest now, is also geothermal. The use of solar hot water systems, the first large-scale use of LED lighting, which is at Spring Hill Edition, water-sourced heat pumps, valence systems, and VRF systems. All of our projects are designed with audio enhancement systems and quiet mechanical systems to improve the learning environment. Our renovation projects result in an increase of 50% efficiency over the systems that are being replaced, and most importantly, we do not tear our buildings down, drastically reducing the carbon footprint of the projects. And Kevin, you were the first person to calculate the carbon footprint. And when people say, why don't we just tear the building down and start over again? You calculated the sustainability and the impact on the environment to save and reuse what we can. So I was so impressed when you did that. So was the community. In 2008, Kevin was given the responsibility of calculating the capacity of our schools to ensure greater reliability regarding this essential aspect of facilities. It was during this time that he also created the Facilities and Enrollment Dashboard, which was intended to provide information that was not contained within the CIP, as well as a means of keeping FCPS, the school board, and the public aware of the state of our schools from a complete facilities perspective. Over the past 10 years, the dashboard has evolved and continues to prove beneficial in decision-making, as well as a valuable tool and a reference. In 2014, we gave Kevin the task of revamping the Office of Planning with the goal of improving our projection accuracy, providing greater information regarding the impact of our programs, capacity status, and capital program and priorities upon our students, and greatly assisted us in making better informed decisions. Kevin has also worked closely with FPAC and the Planning Commission School Committee to help shape the future vision and goals of schools well into the future as we contend with changes in the county over the next 20 to 25 years. He is joined tonight by his wife, Maria, who is an assistant principal at Herndon High School. Maria also grew up attending Fairfax County Public Schools. Maria taught Spanish for 24 years at Herndon High School before becoming an assistant principal. And Kevin's oldest daughter, Alexis, is here also. Alexis is also a graduate of Fairfax County Public Schools. She graduated from UVA 3 years ago. Maria's youngest daughter, however, is still at school at Virginia Tech. All homegrown. We grew your entire family, Kevin. What a great testament to Fairfax County. And now for the resolution. Whereas Mr. Sneed has served Fairfax County and Fairfax County schools for over 3 decades with dedication and distinction in a variety of construction project management and leadership roles, culminating in his position as the Special Projects Administrator overseeing design and construction services and planning services, serving 188,000 students in over 200 facilities. And whereas he has been the longest-serving employee of design and construction in over 30 years, demonstrating a great sense of expertise as he developed standards and forged links of understanding with employees, associations, schools, and citizens to resolve difficult issues with honesty, clarity, and conviction. And whereas Mr. Sneed served with honor as representative of the Fairfax County Planning Commission, Schools Committee, representative to the Fairfax County Public Schools Facilities Planning Advisory Committee, and the Comprehensive Planning Design Committee, and whereas through innovation, creativity, and a commitment to continuous improvement, Mr. Sneed created the FCPS Facilities and Enrollment Dashboard, re-engineered business processes, redefined customer service, and under his leadership, FCPS created a sustainable building standard system, the first for school divisions and systems in the United States. Whereas Mr. Sneed is a model of integrity and sincerity and is greatly respected for his incredible knowledge, approachability, and sense of humor. For him, family comes first, and he will be remembered for the sense of family he worked tirelessly to cultivate in the design and construction department. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairfax County School Board extends its highest recommendation and deepest appreciation to Kevin Sneed on his retirement for his inspirational leadership and outstanding service to Fairfax County Public Schools and unwavering dedication to the children of this community. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Moon. Ms. Strauss, would you like to speak to your resolution?
I can't add to that incredible history, other than we're very sorry that you are moving on, Kevin, but I think we'll be able to find you if we need you. And we know you're going to leave crumbs along that trail so that we can always call you back. You have been an amazing leader. You've been a humble guy, but you have had so much information to pass on, and you've held the school system so accountable, not just in how the buildings go forward, but again, so that they are appropriate for children. And we are so grateful for all that you have done. Our kids learn better today because of the work that you have done.
Mr. Moon, would you like to speak to your second?
Just briefly. I didn't realize that Mr. Strauss was going to read entire 2-page long, single-spaced description of Mr. Sneed's career. But having said that, if I may add to what has been already stated, within Fairfax County Public Schools organizational structure, each department has as its top administrator, assistant superintendents. And below, we generally have directors of offices, but we also have a few in the past, in my recollection, for 20-some years, that we have had a few, very few, super directors. And you are one of those super directors in charge of both a design and construction and planning offices. And amongst many directors who have worked for us for many years and retired from us, at the school board meeting, there have been only a very few directors we are pass a special resolution at their retirement. That's how special you are to us. That's a recognition of our gratitude for your long years of service and your dedication. You are irreplaceable. We all know that. We all know that. With that in mind, Madam Chair, I have a motion to amend the resolution to keep him from retiring for another 5 years, so that I could continue harassing him about with the kind of information that I need with just such a short notice. You've been very good, Mr. Sneed, for tolerating sometimes my impatience about wanting to have all the information in the world at the sort of like at my fingertip. And over the years, I have gotten to know you much better, become very fond of you, even including your ever-changing accent. Now, you speak English with just my kind of Korean accent, which is just lovely. I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you, Kevin. But please leave your home, your personal cell phone number, so that I can call on you at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Ms. Evans?
I just want to add a few words to that. It's really hard to overestimate the impact that Kevin Sneed has had on Fairfax County Public Schools over his time here. I think it's safe to say that his fingerprints are on every single building in the system, including and especially the nearly 200 schools that we have in the system. I think he probably knows about every corner and every square inch of each of them. I know anytime that I've talked with him about a Mason District school, he is very familiar talking about when he crawled through, ducts at this school, and understanding in a very basic way about each and every one of our buildings. Over the 9 years that I've been on the board, Kevin and I have worked on multiple projects together, and it's always been such a pleasure. Multiple renovations and two new schools, including and especially Bailey's Upper, which was our first vertical school, and quite an achievement. It was quite an accomplishment, done, I believe, in record time. And I can tell you that people come from all over the country, not just regionally, but all over the country to see what we were able to accomplish at that school. So that is quite a tribute among many others. I think it's important to note that one of the wonderful things about Kevin, too, is that he not only has this can-do attitude, but that he's very creative about making sure things get done. You know, he stretches the capital dollars in a way that nobody else can do. And I've seen him make sure that things are done well and done properly, particularly making sure that every school gets what it needs, no matter where it is in the county. Your institutional knowledge will certainly be missed, but just your presence and your guidance and you will be very much missed. Although I think I may support Mr. Moon's motion here to simply say, no, we're not going to allow this. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kevin, for everything that you've done. You will be missed.
Never heard of a motion to rescind retirement papers before. Okay. I have Ms. Derenak Kofax, followed by Mr. McElveen.
So there is a theme here you're hearing. Kevin has been counting down the days to his retirement for a while. I think I've said some choice words to you about that retirement, but we're all been in denial about this, but here it's coming. So, Kevin, your knowledge of design and construction is second to none, as so many have already made these comments. You have an amazing ability to see the big picture and make the right suggestions accordingly. We will truly be left with a void as you take your institutional wisdom of all that is FCPS in design and construction with you. But aside from your obvious expertise, Kevin, it's your candor and your sense of humor, and that we will truly miss the most. There have been so many situations where, facilities work is not easy, and the meeting's tough, and you walk out of it for some way, you have us all laughing at the end of the meeting. We are going to miss that. That is a true gift to have. So thank you for all that you've done for making facilities work fun, and I wish you and your family all the best as you begin your next life adventure.
Mr. McElveen.
So I will say up front that we will not hold against Kevin the fact that he graduated from Madison. But that is one of his crowning achievements, I know. One of the fondest memories I have of Kevin is when he, along with Ms. Hines and I, were in a back conference room at Marshall High School, and we were with our F&S staff trying to bring forward a plan for a pilot kitchen at Marshall High School, which later became the Statesman Station. And he was able to very finely bring together what I would say was staff that was stuck in their ways and board members who were trying to push the conversation. And he threaded that line very impressively and was able to produce something that was really an incredible pilot for our district. And, what many people who have not heard Kevin make presentations before don't realize is how he has pushed our system to be forward-thinking in so many areas. And just one of those is cafeteria design. And, as we're looking to the future, we think about, food courts and, really making use of our space in ways that we have never done before. And some of you know that every year I host an advocacy and innovation workshop for students. And Kevin has always been the star presenter at that workshop. And, one of the things that I so admire about him is that his degree is in psychology, and he is able to draw the parallels between that study and what he does in his day-to-day work, which is school construction. And I have seen students' eyes light up when he talks about, schools of the future. And I know he has inspired many of them to consider that as a career opportunity when, frankly, none of us would really think of that, but he has really inspired them. His daughter, Christina, even participated in that program, and I know she cringed at all his dad jokes, but just like we all do. I'm so grateful to Kevin for all he's done as part of that program for our school district, as well as everything else. And I agree with my colleagues when they say that every student in our system has benefited from his work, whether they know it or not. So, Kevin, thank you. Congratulations that your countdown clock has finally run out, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Ms. Palchik.
Well, I'm going to start by saying it wasn't until I first came on board, here on the board, that I realized that Kevin was one of the hidden gems of Fairfax County. I think unless you are intricately involved with the system, with the administration, you don't realize how he makes Jeff look good. You're in trouble. And our superintendent, but most importantly, our schools. I think people have shared how Kevin knows every single corner of our 5 pentagons, so I have 26 million square feet, 5 pentagons of classroom space, and knows where we need to go. But I think what's touched me the most about Kevin that you don't get to see until you have those one-on-one conversations is how much he deeply, truly cares, number one, about equity in our system. Kevin is the number one person who will call out and who will ensure that, as was said, every school in every part of the district gets the best possible design, architecture, construction, so that all of our students, regardless of where they go to school, and with a very limited budget at times on our end, with growing enrollment, is ensured that. I don't know how many of you know that Horace Mann actually became Secretary of Education after having visited every single school in Massachusetts and seeing all the inequities that existed, and was finally able to push for public education. So I know it's sometimes the last thing we think about, not in the community, but as educators, what the space looks like, because the programs usually come first and we deal with what's there. But to be able to create that is critical. And Kevin, your knowledge, but your heart and your deep caring comes through. So I would support Mr. Moon's motion. I think our only hope is that Kevin also deeply cares about his team and his staff. And if he doesn't answer our calls at home, I know he will answer theirs. He will not leave them without the support and the knowledge that is all in that wonderful Kevin head of all the years of knowledge. So thank you. I know it's been a few short years that we've worked together and faced many challenges and growth in our area. And so I hope you get some rest. I hope you don't drive Maria crazy. We'll take you back. And please enjoy some well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
And Ms. Hines.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you know, Mr. Sneed, I met your lovely daughter before I met you. And Alexis is here tonight. When I think you were a junior in high school, I want to say, I was running for school board, and I don't know how you figured out that I was looking for interns, but you found out somehow. And Alexis was just this amazing, so mature and professional, for her age, but really even for an adult. I mean, I was so impressed with this young woman, really, and all that she was willing to do and able to do. And so at some point, toward the end of the summer, Alexis told me, my dad is, facilities in the school system. And I said, oh, really? That's interesting. And so when I met you, Kevin, I was not really surprised to see how professional and wonderful and well-liked you are. Your daughter was a great introduction to knowing you. And so I remember you were one of the first people on staff that I sat and talked to. And I think I feel now like I, that day, found my first and fastest and now oldest friend on staff in FCPS. Just your openness, your willingness to be honest, to make possible anything that is possible, but be clear about what isn't, and just to be so available and willing to meet and positive, even after 20 plus years of dealing with school board members by the time I met you. I think that's remarkable, and it just speaks to who you are. You, as some of my colleagues have said, I mean, Kevin, you have literally built this school system as it exists today. Well, I mean, I think you've had a hand in probably all of it or so much of it. And so the beauty of your work, I think, is that even as you retire, your work will not. Your work will go on working for the benefit of the students and the educators and the community, because I know you've also worked hard to make sure that our schools are community centers, and we have some great projects to show for that. Yeah, you've talked so much about retiring over the years. I kind of stopped taking it seriously. I stopped paying attention, and now here we are. So no more Mr. Nice Guy for a while, so that's hard. But we know where you live. We will get you back in here. Really, Kevin, as like everyone else said, we're going to miss you so very much. Thank you.
So before I call for the vote, I did want to take a couple of moments and offer my remarks. I didn't know that you were a psychology undergrad. It makes sense now. Because people talk about board whisperers. I think you are in many ways a board whisperer. But more importantly, many people know that in the 1980s, they were starting a new type of engineering, and it was called human factors engineering. And that was the combination of psychology and engineering and incorporating it into designs. And when I look at what you've done for Fairfax County, we're going to recoin the term from human factors engineering to student factors engineering, because you certainly have brought the student factor into all of the design work, and we're so appreciative of it. I also want to thank you because you are leaving a legacy behind. You've been with us for 31 years. It takes us 37 years to go through a renovation cycle. We would like you to stay for 6 more so that you could start renovating some of the buildings that you... However, you've brought a sense of humility and candor and patience to the design and construction process. And because of that, the way you approach things, you also brought it to the Planning Commission. I had the opportunity to work with you on the Schools Committee, and I know that all of the members of that committee on the Planning Commission were just so in awe of the just the impact you had on the comprehensive plan in changing the way they approached schools. So I'm very appreciative of that. You have left a legacy here. We would love to extend for 6 years so that we get to the full 37, but I know that that's not possible. But you are just admired by all of us, so thank you. I do now see that we have one more comment. Ms. Keys-Gamarra, you have the last word before we vote.
I will be brief. I did want to thank you also, Kevin. I met you when I was on the Planning Commission. It was you who inspired me to do this. Mostly. In many ways. But I learned from that you were incredibly patient and knowledgeable. We were looking at the comprehensive plan to figure out what the future of our schools could look like. We have a shortage of land in Fairfax County, so we had to start going up rather than out. And I just remember you being very patient, very knowledgeable, very humble, and very kind. I know that we had some exuberant personalities on the Planning Commission. is the best way that I can say it, and you didn't even flinch. So bravo. I thought this man is made of steel. So I think that you never lost focus of your purpose. You've been very protective, not of your territory, but of our schools, because I think you understood that that was the place where parents sent their kids and expected them to be safe, and you took that charge very seriously. And so I just want to say thank you, that we were able to trust you and trust our kids in the buildings that you helped to oversee. And I'm grateful that you were in that place. So thank you.
And with that, I'll take the vote. All those that can support Ms. Strauss's resolution on Kevin Sneed. And that is unanimous.
And
So, Mr. Sneed, before we ask people to come up to the dais for a photo, would you like to say a few words?
no.
Is this on? Okay. You know, I hadn't planned to do that. I know you guys are going to be surprised. You think that when I come into work sessions or I talk to you that I rehearse, but I don't. Everything is literally off the top of my head. So I think I can handle this. Before I start, I just wanted to say, I thought that I was supposed to be done at 7:35, so I was going to, it's not your fault though, but like they're all laughing because they know. They know when we're on a work session at 3, that means get there about 5:30 or so. But I appreciate everything that you all said about me. I don't do these things on my own. You know, I never take credit. I have an incredible staff in design and construction. They are so dedicated. And they work all types of hours, nights, weekends. And in addition, the planning staff is just as good. Over the last 5 years, we've seen a complete turnover. We have a superstar director in Jessica. And so those are the most valuable things. But when I go around and talk to other folks in other school systems, they'll ask me, you know, how do you guys do this? And I tell them, we have a great relationship with our board. We explain things, and the board has always been very supportive, so I appreciate that. This has been mostly fun place to work, depends, you know. I haven't had a summer for 32 years, and but it's been an honor. I think the students here are great, the parents, and it's just been a good ride, but I need to step off now. So I appreciate all the support that the board has given to design and construction. I also like to thank Mr. Plattenberg. I know he's going to miss talking to me every day. Dr. Ivy, who my wife worked for at Herndon, so we've known each other a while. And Dr. Brabrand, who I believe started teaching with my wife. Is that correct? Before I think I just gotten married, and Scott and my wife were going to a class together. Is that correct? Something like that. Yeah. That was just a few short years ago, but none of this, we couldn't be successful without all of us working together. So I appreciate the support of the board, my staff in design and construction, and the other folks in the school system who have supported us. So I don't want to say any more. You guys have heard enough from me. So thank you very much. I appreciate this.
I would like now for Kevin, his wife Maria, daughter Alexis, his mother Jan Sneed, and many friends and colleagues to please come and join us at the dais for a photo with the board.
The next order of business is citizen participation. Tonight, 5 citizens have signed up to address the board. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. The school board will not hear statements involving issues that have been scheduled for public hearings, such as capital improvement program, budget, and boundaries. Complaints regarding individual students or school-based employees should be directed to the appropriate school principal or other school official. Speakers should refrain from using personally identifiable information in connection with an individual student. Speakers are expected to deliver their comments with the decorum and respect appropriate to the conduct of the public's business. Please be mindful that there are often young children in attendance at these meetings or watching at home, so language should be appropriate for all age levels. Thank you for your cooperation, and thanks to those who have come to speak to us tonight. Our first speaker is Sarah Luthra, followed by Norm Hall and Rebecca Golden.
Good evening, respected FCPS board members. I'd like to quickly thank the board for being so responsive to student concerns and working so diligently to improve the student experience. My name is Sarah Luthra, and I'm a junior at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. I currently serve as the student representative to the Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee, and I'm here today representing the Fairfax County Board of Student Representatives, or FCBSR. The mission of FCBSR is to bring awareness about the FCPS 2-hour homework policy and encourage its effective implementation. We understand the pressures of being FCPS students and want to help create a positive school experience for each of our peers. According to the 2-hour homework policy, teachers should estimate the amount of time the average student would require to complete an assignment. In general, homework across disciplines should not exceed 0.5 hours in kindergarten through grade 3, 1 hour in grades 4 through 6, 1.5 hours at the middle school level, and 2 hours at the high school level. This is a direct quote found from the FCPS website. This policy was created to address the correlation between high workloads and student reports of high stress, depression, and suicidal tendencies, as reported by the Student Youth Survey. For students who report 3+ hours of homework a night, 10.3% have reported 1 or more attempted suicides. This is an alarming statistic that can be lowered if efforts are made to consider the necessity and quantity of work assigned. I would like to present a few more statistics that were obtained from the FCPS Youth Survey conducted in the 2016 to 2017 school year. 34.8% of 12th grade students do upwards of 5.75 hours of work after each 8-hour school day, amounting to nearly 15-hour work days. Trends show that the higher the grade level, the less physical activity students participate in. 33% less physical activity was reported in 12th grade students than 8th grade students. Consider the following statistics regarding sleep. 12th graders are 300% less likely to get 8 hours of sleep compared to an 8th grader, and 16.1% of 12th graders get 8+ hours of sleep, whereas 24.8% of 12th graders get 5 hours or less. There was a 156% increase in 12th graders who don't do extracurricular activities compared to 8th graders, and a 213% decrease in 12th graders who don't do community service. As students, we understand and appreciate that homework enriches classroom learning and reinforces concepts learned during the school day. However, it is prudent that to reduce busy work or relatively unnecessary or unhelpful work assigned to students so that they have more time for sleep, family, friends, extracurriculars, and volunteering. I'm here to seek support of the school board and other members of our school system to consider a typical student's busy work life, and with more awareness brought to the 2-hour homework policy, student participation in these activities will increase and result in a healthier FCPS community. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. I'm Norm Hall, the Advocacy Chair of the Fairfax County Special Education PTA. If you go online to a page of the Virginia Department of Education, schoolquality.virginia.gov, you can do a simple search to see the results of the 2018 Standards of Learning Tests for FCPS students overall and separately for students with disabilities. I watched the Strategic Plan Enhancement work session with these results in mind. The achievement gap for students with disabilities is a concern for the students, faculty, and staff who are involved. The reality is that the SOL subgroup scores worsened in all area but one. In that area, writing, the sign of so-called progress is that instead of 45%, the failure rate dropped by 2% to 43%. I was disappointed to see that at no time during the recorded work session does anybody ask about or comment on the achievement gap issue. I previously noticed that there was no corresponding initiative as part of the development of the 2020 budget, proposed amendments to the budget itself, or add-on amendments. So what are we to do? Well into the third quarter of the school year, there has been no school board business to address the broad numbers of special education students who are about to begin another round of writing assessments next month, with the rest to follow in 3 months. My recommendation is that the school board direct the superintendent to provide uniform instructions to the regional assistant superintendents, have them consistently follow up in the forthcoming school improvement plans that are the accountability link from the strategic plan to management of the school system. Ideally, parents at the regional level could participate in making sure that these achievement gaps and methods to reduce them reflect the experiences of the many students who are required by the Commonwealth to take tests that they do not pass. Even if the 2019 results are not the inflection points towards rising scores, there would at least be a path to show that FCPS demonstrates concern for every child, every need. Following up on another work session from last week, I suggest that there be a public meeting focused on the disproportionate incidence rate of students with disabilities when it comes to disciplinary issues at both primary and secondary schools. Perhaps the Office of Research and Strategic Initiatives can jumpstart such a process with a presentation of the information it gathered during Phase 1 to all the appropriate stakeholders. I know that the scope of work as presented last week calls for an initial meeting to describe project and data materials provided to be completed by the last week of February. I will be happy to assist in any way I can to make sure that this happens. These two special education topics, a broad, stubborn achievement gap and extremely high disciplinary rates, are connected. Wouldn't you agree? They won't go away without deliberate action. Let's set something up to get parents, teachers, and staff involved to show that the whole community does want every student to succeed. Thank you.
Hello, school board members. My name is Rebecca Golden, and I'm a math professor at George Mason. I have 4 kids, 1 who finished in FCPS and 3 who are currently students, and I am very appreciative of the opportunity to testify here tonight. I am also past president of FCAG, a community organization that advocates for the needs of gifted children. I'm here because of the proposed equity goals in the strategic plan. It aims for participation in AAP Level 4 services to be at or above 25% for each student demographic of race, disability, or EL status. The work session convinced me that the school board is moving to address equity through program expansion, and this would be a mistake. AAP Level 4 services have already expanded dramatically. 10 years ago, participation was about 12% of students. 3 years ago, it was 27% of students. Yet differences in participation rates persist. And as the program has expanded, teachers have had less prepared students and have accordingly reduced the number and level of challenging assignments. We can't divorce programmatic goals from practical impact of broad expansion. A systemic expansion of AAP Level 4 participation would result in a decline in quality of Level 4 curricular implementation. And since any expansion applies to all student groups, inequities of identification and participation would persist. The Virginia Department of Education guidelines defines gifted students as different from age-level peers. By its very definition, giftedness is not broadly applicable. Level 4 services were designed for these kids by providing, quote, academic depth and complexity in the 4 core content areas.
Differentiation in instruction can't accommodate both students who need the high-level complexity in order to learn in our classrooms and students who are simply above average. Ask our teachers. They are already stretched thin, and the situation will worsen with expansion. The very students who need AAP the most will be left to learn on their own. In December, I attended an AAP forum in which it became clear that past suggestions for improving the identification process and for bolstering access for underrepresented groups through early intervention and programs have not been funded, pursued, or even kept track of. A plan without a strategy is not a strategic plan. Expansion of level 4 to every elementary school has not resulted in equal participation outcome. If every school has level 4 classrooms, regardless of actual class level, we fear the county will conclude the centers are redundant, and truly gifted kids will have too few kids from whom to find intellectual peers. Preserve AAP level 4 by giving thoughtful consideration about its purpose, separate from equity considerations. While some AAP curricula may be used beneficially by Gen Ed, the full program and its implementation requires students who are ready to learn at a high level. Make changes that preserve the purpose and success for the kids who need the program the most. Thank you very much.
Animesh Gupta and Amanda Campbell.
Greetings, Honorable School Board and members of the great school community. I'm here to talk about the strategic plan and its impact to gifted students. I'm a resident of Falls Church and a parent of 3 children, 2 AAP FCPS students. I would like you to consider providing necessary achievement milestones through participation in AAP centers. My children would not have received the necessary behavioral care and academic care at a local level school level 4. I would rather encourage you to provide and strengthen the necessary resources at the AAP centers to meet their academic and behavior needs. Like Mr. Moon mentioned, civil rights movements have enabled inclusions of other communities into the open-minded American culture. I request you to not dilute the centers. Please support the necessary tools to academically hungry kids so they can grow. I believe that this county and country prides itself in promoting entrepreneurial strengths and academic growth. So while you are pulling the academically challenged kids up, I urge you to push the academically hungry kids higher or further. I would suggest strengthening the level 4 centers with more higher academic standards. Ms. Fairfax, she mentioned about equal rights. Please provide equal rights to these kids who are academically strong so they can grow further. Being Asian, I would also like you to reconsider reducing the weightage of the GBRS rating in considering level 4 services. Thank you for the gift of education, and thank you, taxpayers.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Campbell, and I'm happy to actually be able to speak with you this evening as an individual. When I spoke before this body in November regarding the Inclusive Schools Week proclamation, I made a statement that inclusion is a mindset that comes from the top down. The school board and the administration set the tone for how students with disabilities are viewed and included throughout the district. There has certainly been more recognition of students with disabilities and advocacy groups like SEPTA in recent years, and I do see and appreciate that. I have to ask, though, what message does it send to FCPS as a whole when students with disabilities are not meaningfully included in the metrics associated with the proposed strategic plan? I understand that the proposed metrics included are intended to be a living document, as they were referred to at the February 11th work session. While I appreciate that sentiment, I haven't really seen that in action over the course of this year. I first spoke to this body regarding the strategic plan back in July 2018. At the time, the action plans shared made no mention of addressing the achievement gap for students with disabilities. As I look at the proposed student success metrics, I see that meaningful inclusion of students with disabilities is still lacking in this area. Yes, there is a box that shows the percentages of students with disabilities on the metrics. However, all but 2 of those metrics have an asterisk underneath them specifying that Cat B students are not included in this metric. According to the proposed budget document for 2019-2020, there are over 17,000 students in that Cat B category, compared to just over 10,000 in Cat A. Excluding these 17,000 students from every single academic metric is a disingenuous way to measure how students with disabilities group is faring in the district. Whether intended or not, the message that I receive from these metrics is that closing the achievement gap for these 17,000 students is not a priority. That is not the message that I receive from teachers on the ground or from DSS. But shouldn't these messages align? Anyone who has experience with IEP meetings will tell you how imperative it is to have clear, measurable, and relevant goals from the outset. The strategic plan should be no different. The first metric in the Caring Culture section looks to measure student reporting on feeling accepted and included in school. Why is this data, and most data in this section of the strategic plan, not disaggregated by student group? Given the upcoming discipline study, it would be quite informative and interesting to see if any correlation exists between students with disabilities feeling accepted and included in a school and their discipline referral rate in that school. In the Premier Workforce Metrics, there are 2 pages dedicated to the aspirational statement that, quote, the diversity of qualified teacher applicants will match diversity of Fairfax County residents. Yet the only diversity mentioned throughout them is racial and gender diversity. How is it that there is no reference to people whose abilities vary by physical and socio-emotional functionality? The strategic plan is only as good as the metrics by which it will be measured. And while yes, they are living documents and can be changed in the future, there is absolutely no reason that students with disabilities should not be meaningfully included in those metrics from the beginning. Please consider the message you send and make appropriate adjustments before you adopt the strategic plan and its metrics. Thank you.
Since Mr. Tigner is not here this evening, we will not have student representative matters. I now call on Dr. Brabrand to talk about our strategic plan enhancements.
Good evening, members of the school board. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. It's my honor and pleasure on behalf of the leadership team and Marty Smith, who has been shepherding a lot of this work over the last year on our strategic plan focus for the school years 18 to 20, to present the finalization of the metrics and targets around the strategic plan. We are not adopting tonight, obviously. We're presenting a presentation, and it'll be on new business. But I'm excited to bring this to you because it has been the culmination of really a lot of work over the last 18 months since I arrived, to take the great work that this board did and Dr. Garza did in setting up the strategic plan Ignite, and bringing some additional focus, some additional metrics, some additional targets to our strategic plan, and beginning to align our strategic plan to our budget. So I'd like to begin with giving you an outline of today's presentation. We're going to provide updates to the strategic plan focus following the November 8th, 2018 regular meeting we had when we last brought it before this board. We're going to review the purpose of the metrics and targets document. I'm great. Some folks have already come up and commented to you about our metrics and targets. All of that information is now available on our website for the public to see, and as I'll show you, we've had many school board meetings and work sessions around this work. And I am here this evening to request that the school board adopt the school year 18 to 20 strategic plan focus, including the metrics and targets associated with them. As you can see, the work, if we can go back for just a second, the work of the school board meetings on strategic plan enhancements has really taken place over the last year and a half. If we go to the next slide right there. We've had retreats, we've had work sessions, we've had regular meetings, and we've spent a lot of time at leadership team really helping debate and discuss how to bring alive even more the strategic plan and make sure that we're finding the fidelity of implementation that I know the board and the community looks for across all of these things that we say we want to do in Fairfax County. But when we have 200 schools in 5 regions, are we seeing the fidelity of implementation of these metrics in all of our offices, in all of our classrooms, all of our schools, with all of our leaders? The work that we have done is reflected in all of these in all of these work sessions and regular meetings and retreats. And I also want to remind the board we had 2x2s where we had a chance to sit with you in much smaller groups with staff members to do this work, most recently at our February 11th work session. If we can go to the next slide. As you know, earlier this year, or actually last year, you all approved right before the school year our strategic plan focus to really look at our 4 categories in our strategic plan: student success, caring culture, premier workforce, and resource stewardship, but have a real focus on 8 desired outcomes. We had 38 in the original Ignite plan, and we still have those outcomes in the plan, but what do we want to focus on in terms of outcomes over the next 2 years? That was the goal of the strategic focus. And what we're bringing to you and have been bringing to you over the past several work sessions and regular meetings is taking these areas of strategic focus: portrait of a graduate attributes, elimination of access, opportunity, and achievement gaps, and early education for student success. For caring culture, welcoming environment for our families and students, healthy life choices, supporting healthy life choices for our students and employees. For premier workforce, creating market competitive compensation for all of our employees, with the real focus, of course, this last year and this year on our teachers, and making sure that we're creating an environment to recruit and retain exceptional employees. And then finally, for resource stewardship, that we have an efficient budget and allocation process that really is making sure that we are good stewards of the public's dollars. Again, as we take the strategic plan focus, the purpose over the last year really in working with the board is to develop the metrics and targets to more appropriately inform the strategic plan document. As we talked about in several work sessions, it is a living document. The metrics and targets will be reviewed regularly and updated as needed over time. But we do need to put these metrics and targets in so that we can begin to do a better job of holding ourselves, the superintendent, the school board, and our community, that we can have the mutual accountability necessary to be able to track progress on where we are in our strategic plan, where we're doing well, and where we are still falling short. The metric data that we've provided for you in this presentation and available on the website will be reported annually to the school board through goal reporting, and we're going to focus on working to have that goal reporting happen in the fall of every year before we bring you the budget for the following year, so that the results of our progress on the strategic plan can inform the work that we do on our budget process. The targets that we've worked on are working to identify a specific level of performance that defines success or progress at a specific time. We've shown you some of the baseline data, and we've shown you some goals. Many are aggressive goals, but we need to set our targets high so that we can make a very, very good system a great system. And we know that these annual goal reports will help FCPS share, not just with this school board, but with our community and all the stakeholders in it, how we have done in reaching our intended level of success on each metric. These metrics and targets will help us focus on the additional actions that staff is taking to support the strategic plan. I want to share with you now some updates since we had the full board meeting here in November. We've updated all the 3-year baseline data, and we ensured that all available data that we have is included with those 3-year baselines. We made sure, as part of your feedback and community feedback, that the metrics included both percentages and number counts, and that both were expressed on all of our metric tables. We made sure that we organized metrics for elimination of gaps to show specific metrics that address opportunity metrics, access metrics, as well as attainment gap metrics. We have provided new and updated metrics around our advanced academics programming. We have updated our portrait of a graduate metric language. And we have accelerated the targets to reduce the number of temporary classrooms in our schools. This is feedback taken based on the board's feedback to us during the work sessions, during the meeting we had in November, and during our 2x2s. Let's talk a little bit more now about advanced academic programs. Many of you know, based on a forum topic, that we are going through a year-long study led by our amazing Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Dr. Sloan Presidio, with the help of an outside consultant to guide our work around our advanced academic programs. But while we're doing that work and review, we need to move forward with real work around our advanced academic programs. And we put the following changes in our AAP metrics. First, we made sure that we put in an access metric to include all students who receive level 4 instruction, not just students that are level 4 eligible. We are also now comparing student participation to our county average participation rate of 25%, instead of comparing student group to student group. We also added for advanced academics 3 metrics that really look at our opportunity metric and our access metric for students in terms of receiving AAP instruction. That included a metric to look at the number of schools offering Young Scholars programs. And the reality is that we've only got that in about half of our elementary schools. If we're talking about access to advanced opportunities for some students that have been underrepresented, we've got to have those kinds of programs in all of our schools, not just some. We've talked about and added a metric around the number of schools offering local level 4 instruction. Yes, Fairfax County should be proud that we've expanded beyond the centers to offer local level 4, but it is not available in every elementary school. This strategic plan begins the process of rapid expansion of those local level 4 programs to all of our elementary schools. And then finally, we've added a metric to look at the percent of classrooms where students are receiving instructional experiences using AAP curriculum. Many of our strong principals working with their teachers have worked to pull that advanced academic curriculum into the everyday general ed classroom with the help of AART teachers. But as this board knows, we don't have that resource in all of our elementary schools. And many of you have been talking about how to expand it through the budget process that we've just presented. I am confident that this work in creating new access and opportunity metrics will help us improve our advanced academic program in addition to the year-long study and review that this board has directed me and staff to do. We've also made changes to the Portrait of a Graduate attributes. We had metric language adjusted to reflect terminology used by the Instructional Services Department and by schools. For example, aspirationally, our old language was talking about students meeting grade level expectations of Portrait of a Graduate outcomes. And we referenced capstone in several grades. The new language says that all students will meet grade level expectations for Portrait of a Graduate outcomes as measured by their performance on end of the year Portrait of a Graduate presentations of learning, including capstone experiences. We've begun to do that work in several schools, but it is time now in Fairfax County to expand that Portrait of a Graduate work, those presentations of student learning, to all of our schools. You can see the metric. The metric language in the old language was percent of students that would receive a metrics rating of proficient or higher for their end of the year capstone presentations of learning. Our new language will have the percent of students who receive a matrix rating of proficient or higher on their end of year Portrait of a Graduate presentation of learning to include capstone. And the rubric for that matrix rating is under construction as we speak so that we can have that available to fully implement moving forward in the fall. Finally, the other major area that we did work on since our November presentation to this board was around temporary classrooms. And I'm looking straight forward at Mr. Moon, who among other members on this board offered feedback around that metric. The targets and aspirations were adjusted to show an accelerated reduction of temporary classrooms in this strategic plan. The old target was a 10% reduction in 2 years, and the old aspiration was 0 classrooms that were temporary in nature by 2038. The new target goes from a 10% reduction in 2 years to a 57% reduction in 2 years. And a new aspiration for no more temporary classrooms by 2028, less than 10 years from now. These changes, I believe, will help us move forward in the right direction, not only for having the kind of quality facilities that you all talked about just earlier today as you honored Kevin Sneed, but to be an important part of our discussion as we work with the Board of Supervisors to advocate for our CIP funding. So finally, we have for you the finalized metrics and targets for our 1820 strategic plan focus. I want to thank the board for your hard work and commitment to continuous improvement. This is a document that in itself represents continuous improvement for this school system, and it is a document upon which we will continuously improve. But it is time for this board to approve, in my view, to approve this strategic plan focus with these metrics and targets so that I can begin to work with principals now at our next all-county principals meeting in April so that they can be planning as they do hiring for next year, as they plan their professional development for next year. One of the big pieces of feedback that I have gotten as I introduced this to the school system at the leadership conference in August last year after my first year was, Scott or Dr. Brabrand, August is too late. If you want the fidelity of implementation that this board expects and that you expect from us, we need to know earlier and plan earlier to make sure we can reach the goals and objectives the board has set and you have set for us. I believe the time is right. We have done a lot of work together over the last 18 months, and that the time is right to approve the strategic focus and the metrics and targets around the strategic focus to have us move forward and have a focus as we prepare for next year to implement the Fairfax County Public Schools strategic plan. I'll be glad to take any questions, and I do want to remind you that all of the materials are on our website for the public to review before our next board meeting. Again, I'll be glad to take any questions or comments board members may have.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. Before I take questions, I want to remind my colleagues that action on the strategic plan enhancements is scheduled for March 7th, 2019, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting. And with that, I have Ms. Strauss.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. And I do believe that we are coming to the end of this journey. And I want to compliment you and staff on your patience with the board, because this is, I know all of my colleagues wanted to make sure that the metrics were right, that the language was right, that we were moving in the direction that we felt was important for our children. And so it has taken a lot of listening and work and honing on this document. So thank you for that patience and dedication as we work together with this. And also the recognition that this is a living document. Change is the constant in education. So I look forward to having this come for a final vote, and I certainly hope that my colleagues will vote this. We need to go forward. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss.
And your patience and your willingness to partner with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Brabrand, for giving us this opportunity as well as members of the public to get a little bit of an idea of the work that may not be quite as visible. I know we've been in a number of work sessions, had lots of discussions, and I appreciate that opportunity. I did hear 2 comments tonight from citizens, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to address them, so I'm going to keep talking and give you a chance to think about it. But I'd like for, if you would like to comment on that, I think that it would be really appropriate The first one was was a gentleman concerned about how we're focusing this strategic plan on students who are receiving special education. And the second one had to do with our deep dive that we're taking with respect to advanced academics. I know what we have discussed, but obviously I'm not sure that the public knows, especially with respect to advanced academics. I know my concern is making sure that children have more access and have more opportunities. It may not necessarily mean an expansion of the program. And so I know we're looking at some best practices, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on that.
Sure, I'd be glad to take both of those questions. Let me take the first one around the focus on special ed. Special education needs to be a focus in every school district in America because the gap in special education performance exists in Fairfax County, it exists in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it exists in the United States. We have not done as well by our special education students as we need to. And the reality is Fairfax County spends a lot of dollars and resources towards special education students. And why aren't we seeing the return on investment that many would like to see? Most importantly, the parents of kids that have special education needs. I have been the parent of a special education student or students, and so I understand somewhat that perspective of how can we make sure we're maximizing their potential. But we do have a breakdown of special education students for the metrics along with other subgroups. The part that maybe some folks need to see and will see soon are specific action plans around how we're going to address those access and opportunity gaps and achievement gaps. And we're working through that. And Lee, are you here? We're working through building, Lee I know is not here. Lee D, you are here. And I know we are working in our leadership team around bringing the format at a future work session about how we're going to show those action plans for you and the board and the public to see what we're doing. And we plan to review how we're doing our special ed instruction and if it's having improvement or not. One of the things around special education we need to continue to take a look at is moving as many kids as we can through inclusion from self-contained models into inclusive team top models. When kids get a chance to be with general education peers and get access to that curriculum with the right supports, we can see improvements. In a lot of cases, including when I was principal, we had a lot of kids in self-contained settings, but the performance of the kid was not meeting our expectations, nor the parents. But it really is a paradigm shift, and it's a balance. It is a balance. We can't just put kids in without the right supports to make sure they're ready to be in those inclusive classrooms. But we, I think, still need to move further to integrating our special education students. The second one is about advanced academic programs. And we are beginning, with this board's support from a forum topic earlier this year, to begin a year-long review of our advanced academics from kindergarten all the way to high school to see what we can do to make sure that we have an equity lens across every level, elementary, middle, and high, and that we truly have best practices in place. I can already tell you, a part of the metric work that this board has asked me to do, that we've had some good ideas, but good ideas only done with partial implementation are never going to yield the results this board and community expects. We've had young scholars, for example, for over a decade, but we have not had the resources, and frankly, the last decade, we've been cutting programs in Fairfax County schools. We now, that time, the past is the past, but we now have to use the environment we're in and 2 years of fully funding from the Board of Supervisors, we hope, with this second budget, finishing the process this year, to begin to restore programs, or where we've never had them in the first place, the expansion into schools so that every kid can have access to the same opportunities as that we've had in some schools. And it's our lack of having done that over the years that has the community believing that only certain places with certain teachers and certain areas can they get what they need for their child. And we, I believe, can put programs and practices in place that can change that narrative. That doesn't necessarily mean the elimination of programs that we've had, but it does mean a re-examination of how we've done things and how we've been doing it to meet all kids' needs. So that probably doesn't answer all of it, but it does say, and I hope it does address that we are going to spend time with the board. I think we're coming very soon to let you know the scope of that advanced academic study, and then we'll be updating you and the community as we move along. And of course, whatever recommendations we have will be brought to this board before we move forward. But we can't expect to meet the targets and metrics by doing the same old in Fairfax County Public Schools. And I commit to you, this strategic plan is part of an increased look to transparency that I believe can benefit our community, can benefit accountability for the superintendent, and have the school board feel that they know clearly how performance is in this organization, and you can be better in a better position to direct, as you have your authority to do so, a budget that aligns resources where they're most needed to address the areas that we're still falling short in.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. And I really want to emphasize that I believe we're both focused on, first of all, including the community in that discussion, making sure we're hearing what they are having to say, but also, not necessarily being wedged into how we have been doing things, but trying to figure out what can work. And so I'm looking forward to having those discussions and making sure that we are focused and providing the supports to make sure that things can really move forward.
And I would like to share, and I probably didn't say it as clearly as I could, part of the work that you have asked us to do, including bringing in the consultant, includes direct engagement with our community and with the stakeholders involved. And I'm committed to doing that. We need to do it. We need to bring everybody along. And sometimes I think with some of these issues, the better understanding of the issue as we hear from different points of view from folks will actually help us come up with better strategies to arrive. I want to say one last thing about special ed, perhaps, to just be honest. We've got to have great special education teachers. We don't have just a teacher shortage in Virginia and the United States. We have an acute shortage of special education teachers. And the worst shortage of special education teachers in Virginia is in Northern Virginia. We are not producing enough, and we are going to have to, I believe, re-look at our whole process of how we can get folks to come and work on our special education classrooms. But it begins, part of it is at the federal level, part of it is at the state level, but we have to reimagine. There are great people out there who can work with some of the kids that have these extra needs, and we are not putting them in front of those kids. There are too many barriers, and we've got to figure out how we break down those barriers so those kids can get the instruction they need.
Just one last question. I think we need to follow the Kevin Sneed model. Just, growing our own is perhaps a part of the success plan. So thank you, Dr. Brabrand.
Thank you.
Ms. Evans.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I certainly appreciate the quicker removal of the trailers. That certainly should be a goal of ours. I think it's important how we do that. It's going to be important that we don't slow down our much-needed renovations. I think it's always important to keep in mind we still have a high school out there doesn't have a sprinkler system. And we still have a high school that desperately is long overdue for renovation, and of course many elementary schools that have been waiting in line for a very long time. So I would certainly value seeing how we're going to do this. Clearly, if we're going to be adding capacity at schools, that helps us with the trailers. But have we thought through how we're going to do a much quicker job of eliminating the trailers without slowing down the renovation queue?
Well, I know we're having a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors next week, and one of the discussions on that joint meeting, of course, is our budget. And again, I want to say publicly, I was there Tuesday night, or Tuesday morning rather, when the County Executive Brian Hill shared with the Board of Supervisors his proposed budget, which fully funds our request. which is wonderful.
Which
But
is-
the other,
Yes,
the-
thank you to the Board of Supervisors for that, absolutely. And thank you for your leadership on
well,
that too, Dr. Braber.
you're welcome. But the other big topic for that joint meeting is the CIP.
Okay.
And I expect there will be a robust discussion between this board and the Board of Supervisor about the need. I know Chairman Corbett Sanders was somewhat tongue-in-cheek with Kevin Sneed, talking about him staying 6 more years so he can be around for a 37-year replacement cycle. But if we're being honest with one another, Fairfax County should have never, ever been in a position to have a 37-year school replacement cycle, ever. Not as the leading school district in the United States of America.
Amen.
We let those conditions get here, but I'm confident we have the collective will and the kind of collaboration that has been going on between both boards to get us back to that ideal 25 years. And maybe if we can get to that on next week's meeting, we can get Kevin Sneed to rescind his retirement. How about that, Mr. Plattenberg?
It's too late to speed it up.
We do believe the CIP needs additional support regardless of this trailer plan. And the strategic plan incorporation of trailers in no way mitigates the need for increased funding for our capital improvement budget.
Thank you. And just one other point, I appreciate with the follow-on, or with the follow-up to the questions at the work session,
Yes.
the answer about how much it would cost to put the primary years program into all of the elementary schools in the pyramids, where the 7 pyramids, is that right? The
Yep.
7 pyramids.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I think that's, I'll just make the comment then that I think this is something that the board should be looking to. I don't know that we can afford all of it right now, but I do think that that would be a worthwhile goal for us to get started. We do have the one at Belvedere Elementary School and the second in the works at, I believe it's Dogwood. Is it Dogwood that's in the works?
Yes.
Is that right? So, I mean, I think those are good starts, but that is such a wonderful program, and to have it as we do in the one pyramid going K through 12, you know, I can certainly attest to what a great program it is, and I would certainly like to see it expanded in some way. So I would hope that the board would support looking towards a plan to do that. I realize that's not right now in the realm of where we've gone with this strategic plan, but just wanted to make that point that I think that would be a worthwhile goal for this board. Thank you.
I do want to just share that the school board has reviewed in our strategic plan access to AP and IB is one of the strategic plan goals. And in response to your question, it would cost a little under $200,000 to add one more middle years program in one of our pyramids. And for the 39 elementary schools that feed into our high schools with IB, it would cost a little over $6 million.
Right.
So $6 million is, $6 million. But this is the kind of thing that I think the strategic plan is going to help us shape the sort of budget discussions that this board is going to have about how do we make budget requests that directly align to goals and targets we have in our strategic plan. And I think that's going to be the power of this. And to be honest, much like advanced academics where we've had centers, we've thought it's good for kids at an early age to get exposed to advanced academics. If we think IB is a great program that our high school kids should get, and there's a middle and elementary articulation and continuum for that, why wouldn't we want to do the same thing for those kids? So I think we're putting the elements in place for a robust policy discussion for the board.
I certainly welcome that, and if we can't find the whole $6 million, perhaps we could do it in phases, and I certainly would welcome that. Thank you for looking for that forward-looking approach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Mr. McElveen.
Yes, thank you. So following on Sandy's point, I'm glad she raised that tonight. With the primary years program, I'm wondering if since at Belvedere we've now had it for how many years? 3 or 4 years. So we're not yet at a point where we can measure student outcomes as compared to students that don't go through the PYP but graduate with an IB diploma. So, you know, I think at some point we need to get to that point so we can compare whether it's worth the investment. But that doesn't mean that we can't move forward with it. Obviously, it's a significant expense. But I like the fact that Dr. Brabrand came prepared with those numbers here tonight. Well done.
Thank you.
And we will certainly continue to think about it. Dr. Presidio, did you have anything to add on that?
Not too much at this time. I mean, it's something that we've certainly advocated for in the Instructional Services Department. Much as Dr. Brabrand said, you know, it's those early learning opportunities that, you know, sometimes are hard to measure in terms of quantifiable outcomes. So it's really thinking about, you know, that early engagement, that early exposure to rigor, and how that translates into later success. And, you know, the outcomes for the IB program are so similar to what we're trying to do with Portrait of a Graduate that, you know, from an instructional standpoint, we would love to see the program expanded, but we certainly understand the fiscal constraints that we're under as a system. So.
Thank you. And yes, I will just add my voice as one board member who supports expanding that program to the extent we can. Thank you.
Ms. Derenak-Kovacs.
It's just following up on this line of questioning. As far as how do you see, and maybe this is for Dr. Presidio, say like a local level 4, how do you see that melding with the primary year's IB program? I'm not certain because I'm not familiar with the primary year's IB, and what would the differentiation between those two programming, and can they coexist in elementary schools together?
Well, they're actually quite complementary because IB is not a curriculum. It's really a framework for developing students' critical thinking skills more than really anything else. So the framework that IB lays out is really centered around a learner profile that is quite similar to our Portrait of Graduate. So really thinking about how you're developing those critical and creative thinking skills again, and that married with the curriculum that we've developed for our Level 4 program services, those two programs are quite complementary.
Okay.
And additionally, when you're looking at the IB program, one of the critical components of the curriculum is exposure to world languages as well. So that's another board goal that we've had for a long period of time in this community, and it would allow us to start to expand some of our world language expansion at the elementary level as well.
And I know, because I went through this as a parent while one of the schools that my kids were in was the middle year's IB program, and it took a little while for the school and the teachers and everybody. How long does it take approximately to implement the primary year's program within a school community?
So the IB program has pretty high standards. It's an international program, and in order to become an authorized school, there's quite a rigorous process that you have to go through. So you have to submit curriculum that you've developed at the local school site. You have to be able to offer evidence that you're able to deliver that curriculum to all students, not just to some students, which is, again, I think very much in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish with our equity goals. There's professional development that has to be completed, and there's a number of other factors that have to be met as well. But typically it's between a 3 to 5 year process before a school can become fully authorized by the IB organization, but you actually start work in terms of implementing the program in year 1.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Presidio.
Ms. Hines, I saw your light. No? Okay, Mr. Moon.
I'm going to ask you just one quick question. That one of the speakers during the citizen participation talked about us not including category B for overall student achievement goal. Could you comment on that? 17,000 versus 10,000 category A. Obviously, 17,000 is a much larger portion.
Leedy, I'm trying to remember. I believe when we first presented it in November, there was concerns that the special education category was too broad based on certain students and their learner profile, and that it was unfairly setting up a set of expectations around some of our programming. And so we were trying to figure out a way how to better represent that number before the board. And I think that's where we did the split between the Cat A and the Cat B students. Is that right? Do you have a microphone?
Sorry? It's only Cat B who are in self-contained classrooms that were excluded. So it's not all Cat B students, but
So
only if they're in self-contained.
would you be able to give us a number of Category B who are excluded from our metrics?
We can get that number. I can't give it to you right now, but I can get the number.
Would you say that it's more than 50% of a special ed population, or much less than that?
No, it should be much less than that.
Could you give us like a magnitude, rough, whether it's a 10%, 20%, 25%?
Yeah, I don't want to give you the wrong number, so
Okay.
I can check into it. and
We'll
get
get you
back
that
to
number
yeah.
before there's a vote on it in 2
Okay.
weeks, that's for sure.
Okay, because, you know, because the speaker talked about 17,000 being excluded out of total population, which is quite a lot. So, you know, if you could provide us so that we could share with the public what the number
Yes,
is.
we can get that number to you.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, Mr. Moon, I would say, and this is part of that feedback, this is a living document. We know the strategic plan sends its own set of messages to the community, and we want to make sure, and we want feedback to make sure we're sending the right messages and that they're not being misinterpreted or misunderstood about what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
So I have a couple of go-backs, and then I'm going to make a comment. Actually, Ms. Palchik hasn't spoken, so we'll let Ms. Palchik go first.
Yes, and I apologize. I was in the back a little bit listening, but hope I didn't miss anything. And I do appreciate our speakers who are still here. I know there's a lot we do well, but there's always room for growth, definitely. And the upside of having to show that at the state level is that we're going to have to figure out how to fix our achievement gap for our special ed students. So that on one hand, we need to figure out how to get there, and I hope we do. I know this isn't quite there. It's a small step to start to get there. And then my other question, and I think the IB program is excellent, and I love the idea of extending it down to the early years. My only hesitation and question is at the high school level, right, we allow transfer for IB. I believe we don't do that at the middle school level unless I'm mistaken. And then as we look at elementary, it's one of those things like our language immersion programs, they're great things I believe in, we believe in, and we want to do more of. When we have so many schools and we don't have these programs in every school, I just want us to be thoughtful that down the road, this doesn't lead to additional inequities in programming and in student transfers who are able to, you know, have their own transportation to get to these programs. I guess that's just my only hesitation as we start to go down that path.
No, I certainly understand, and I think one of the things perhaps we can do more of as we're doing the strategic plan is we look at different things. As we look at program expansion, as we look at school boundaries, and we have a work session on school boundaries, as we look at what do trailers mean, taking all of the factors and making sure we've balanced them, looking at our student transfer policy. Are we setting up unintended consequences that don't match our goals of One Fairfax and having an equity lens on what we do? And I think the board thoughtfully is beginning and has been for some time raising these questions, and I think the strategic plan is a place where the strategic plan is not a show document for Fairfax County Public Schools. It is a transparency document to let us honestly share what we are doing well and what we are proud of, but honestly also show where we need to work better. And so with that in mind, I think it's going to help us look at the policy, the program, and the budget decision-making processes we have and better inform I will say this, and Terry Dade, I see our Regional Assistant Superintendent is here. Belvedere, I believe I went there last year for their National Distinguished Title I award. Is that correct, Mr. Dade? So I can tell you this. The only school that's fully implemented PYP became the Title I National Award winner, one of only, I believe, 2 in the state last year. So it certainly doesn't necessarily say causation, but there must be, to me, having had that program in there and listening to the principal, Ms. Vanderhyde, that it is absolutely a part of the success of what has made that school. And that's one of the things I know the board, as we're doing these school visits with me and going out and about, how can we replicate the best practices that we're seeing in these schools everywhere? And I do think the primary IB program, primary years IB program, can be part of the mix of what we would look at.
Okay. So yeah, and I guess I would just say, as we look at it as a long-term strategic plan, you know, and you will have a whole new set of, well, a whole new board next year, is that it becomes one of the things that if this truly is showing these kinds of gains, and I believe it's an excellent curriculum, either we figure out how to have it more across the board or how to be able to take what's so critical from that work into our curriculum work and our best teaching practices. Because I think and I'm not saying going down there, but I think in the past we've had, you know, these pockets of great programs that aren't able to be expanded.
Correct.
So I hope we do have a strategy developed over the course of the next year as we refine the strategic plan of what we will be using, if it's IB or other, for our curriculum and how we teach our students.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Evans.
I just wanted to correct what I said about how long Belvedere's program's been there. It's been about 5 to 6 years, not 3 or 4.
So before we go on, I do want to make a few comments. First, Dr. Brabrand, thank you and Mr. Smith and the whole team that has worked on this. Leedy, you've been incredible, dedicated in how we've developed this plan. It is substantially changed in the past couple of years, and I'm just thrilled to see that we are putting metrics along with each of our goals. Are they perfect metrics? No. But that's because we're not perfect, and we need to have a starting place and see where we go, measure progress over time, and be willing to see this as a living plan where it's iterative. And I would like to see as a follow-on motion when we adopt this plan to actually put in a time period in which we will review the plan and metrics, a periodic schedule. However, this is about fulfilling what I call, and you know the term, my FCPS promise. And the FCPS promise means that no matter where you live in the county or what socioeconomic grouping you come from, that you will have access to the greatest opportunities available to students in the United States here in Fairfax County. It doesn't mean that we diminish the opportunities to some to give opportunities to others, but rather it's a way of rising all boats and creating opportunities where there may not be some. I love your emphasis in your comments tonight on a fidelity of implementation across the county. And so I do look forward to seeing what you're going to do when you come back with individual implementation plans for each of these goals. And that's going to be an ongoing process. But I would remind all of my colleagues that if you have any slight amendments to the strategic plan, vet them with the other colleagues prior to March 7th so that we can adopt this plan and give guidance to our local level leadership on making this happen because our students need it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we now come to the section of the meeting in which the portion of the meeting where the board will confirm any action regarding issues that were discussed in the closed meeting. These issues may include action taken regarding student disciplinary matters. Board members have discussed each individual case, and at this time we will make several motions to confirm the recommended action. And with that, I call on Ms. Hines for a motion.
Thank you. I move that the school board approve a settlement with the general contractor on the Terracet Elementary School renovation and addition project on the terms discussed in closed meeting, and authorize the Assistant Superintendent, Department of Facilities and Transportation Services, and the Director of Design and Construction Services, with the advice of legal counsel for the school division, to negotiate, execute, deliver, and administer a settlement agreement and all related documents as appropriate on behalf of the school board.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Evans. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Palchik, Ms. Hines. Those opposed? Or Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Abstaining, Mr. Wilson. That motion passes. Call on Ms. Hines for a motion.
I move that the teacher identified in closed meeting be dismissed, effective immediately, and that a recommendation to revoke the teacher's Virginia teaching license be forwarded to the Superintendent of Public Instruction at the Virginia Department of Education.
Second.
I second the motion.
Second by Ms. Strauss. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Hines, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Ms. Palchik and Mr. Wilson. That motion passes. I now call on Ms. Derenak Kofax for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who possessed and distributed illegal drugs at school, and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Second by Ms. Keys-Gamarra. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Hines, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Ms. Palchik and Mr. Wilson. That motion passes. Call on Ms. Evans for a motion.
I move to grant in part the school reassignment appeal of a student who possessed and displayed a weapon at school, and to modify the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
I second the motion.
Seconded by Ms. Strauss. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Palchik, Ms. Hines, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Mr. Wilson. That motion carries. Call on Ms. Derenak Kofax for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who sexually assaulted students at school, and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hines. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Hines. Those opposed? Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra. Those abstaining? Mr. Moon, Ms. Palchik, Mr. Wilson. That motion passes. Call on Ms. Strauss for a motion.
Thank you. I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who was charged with serious criminal offenses related to an alleged community-based incident, and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hines. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak Kofax, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Palchik, Ms. Hines, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Ms. Keys-Gamarra and Mr. Wilson. That motion passes. Call on Ms. Strauss for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who is charged with a serious criminal offense related to an alleged community-based incident, and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Moon. All those in favor? Ms. Strauss, Ms. Evans, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, Ms. Derenak-Kovacs, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Palchik, Ms. Hines, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Abstaining by Mr. Wilson, that motion passes. Consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Many items listed have gone through board review, and documentation has been provided to all board members and the public in advance. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the meeting. Item 6.01, award the contract for HVAC fresh air makeup unit replacements at Daniels Run Elementary School to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Edward Kokarian and Company, Inc., in the amount of $273,000, and authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. Item 6.02, confirm the separations for the period beginning January 1, 2019 and ending January 31, 2019. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing no objection, the consent agenda is approved. Item 7, new business. The following are new business agenda items. There will not be a vote tonight on these items, but action is scheduled at a future meeting. 7.01, accept the proposed targets and metrics to the strategic plan. Superintendent matters. Next on the agenda is superintendent matters, and I call on Dr. Brabrand.
Thank you, Chairman Corbett-Sanders. A couple things to share. The Society for Science and the Public recently awarded Hayfield Secondary School with a substantial STEM research grant. The grant will further support students in conducting original scientific research. The society was established in 1921, and it's a nonprofit whose vision is to promote understanding and appreciation of science and the role it plays in human advancement. The research grant will expand STEM research opportunities for young people in 6th through 12th grade by providing equipment grants to educators. Inspired by their experiences with this research grant, many students, we hope, will choose post-secondary studies in a STEM field, broadening the population of future young scientists. So congratulations to Hayfield Secondary School. I also want to just offer congratulations to the board this evening. You know, I've listened to resolutions for a long time here and my time here, but also as superintendent in another division. And tonight, I was moved more than I think I've ever been listening to the Women's History Resolution and the African American History Month Resolution. Board members spoke from their heart, they spoke from their past, and other board members were listening to that and reacted to it as a body. And when a board becomes a learning organization that learns together and has people's experiences from all this diverse county come here, and it starts to inform your conversations and you make those explicit as you talk and show that you learn from each other, I think it sets the tone for the kind of conversations that have to happen in our community in Fairfax and in the country. So I applaud you for modeling the kind of behavior and the kind of conversations that I think the rest of this Commonwealth is going to need in the days and months ahead. I remain optimistic as a born and bred Virginian, but I also know that real progress still needs to be made on both of these areas. Finally, I didn't get a chance to say it, but I do want to say it just for the public record, that the school board resolution and support for honoring Kevin Sneed is not just shared by the school board, but it's shared by me and the entire leadership team in this organization. Kevin is one of the all-stars in the Fairfax family. He served it for over 30 years. Something he said just in this as an aside, but I want to be sure you heard this, 31 years of no summer. That man has worked sunrise to sunset every day he came in to work for Fairfax County Public Schools. He's not just a great administrator. I also just want you to know he's a great father. He's a great husband. He's a great member of his community. And we are grateful for the Sneed family, both him and his wife, who's been an amazing foreign language teacher and is now an assistant principal at Herndon High. I've known this family for a very long time, and it's one of my great honors to be able to watch people that I know I started my career with have an amazing career, and to be here for their final moments with this board is just a very fulfilling thing. So Godspeed to Kevin Sneed, and I want to thank him again for all he's done for Fairfax County Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. Ms. Hines, for board matters.
I will pass tonight, thank you.
Pass.
Just very briefly, I know one of the announcements today was about Read Across America Day. It's one of my favorite weeks, in FCPS, and was just thrilled to be able to read with Ms. Evans at Woodburn Elementary School. And I always love reading partially bilingual books and being able to have all of our students participate. And looking forward to going to Mosby Woods tomorrow. Hopefully we're not snowed out like we were last year. But it is a treat, especially not being in the classroom full-time this year, to be able to do that. And a good reminder how important it is to read at home, read with our kids, and for our kids. And to that, a good night to all.
Mr. McElveen.
I would just note that our graduation season is already underway. I know last meeting we talked about Mountain View, and a number of us were at the Bryant graduation last week. And it's always wonderful to see all the wonderful kids and their heartfelt stories that they share with us at those graduations. And I know Mr. Moon is not at the table right now, but we are 2 for 2 so far, and we'll see how we do this year. Thanks.
Ms. Derenak-Kovacs.
Yes, I just want, and I'm looking for the date, but our group of Grand Involved, which are our seniors in the community, our senior citizens, I should say, in the community, who volunteer with our classrooms, they are having a meeting in early March, and I will get that to everyone if you want to contact me directly. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I just met with their organizing committee, and they are moving, they are implementing new schools memberships in the lead district. They already have several in Mount Vernon, and they're looking at all of our Title I in Mount Vernon, and we are looking to expand across the county. It is an amazing, active group of seniors, and so look for them coming to your district because they are rocking and rolling, and I was very proud to be with them and to talk to them about their organizational and marketing plans as they move forward.
Ms. Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have had the pleasure of attending a number of events this week or the past couple of weeks for Black History Month. There was the Minority Parents for Excellence in Education at Lake Braddock Secondary School. They had featured a number of their students in a program a Saturday or two ago. I also had an opportunity to hear our Senator Kane speak about the history of Virginia. He inspired some of what I included in my resolution. I also had the opportunity to go to the Bryant High School graduation and had office hours. Coming up, I will be participating in Justice Sunday at the Heritage. They will be having a Heritage Lecture Series at First Baptist Church in Vienna. They are becoming very active in encouraging folks to participate in local government, and it is this coming next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and the topic is what's next. So I hope that some of you can join me there, and thank you very much.
Ms. Evans.
Thank you. I, too, was delighted to attend the graduation at Bryant High School. It's always a very, very inspiring ceremony, so I was pleased to join Mr. McElveen and Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Mr. Moon, and Ms. Corbett-Sanders for that event too, as well as the Woodburn Raise a Reader. That's always a favorite event to read to students in the classroom. And next Thursday, I'll have the pleasure of going to Justice High School twice for 2 different events. One is Black History Month Assembly in the morning, and then I'll be back at Justice High School that night for a Pyramid Art Show. So I'm looking forward to seeing people there. Thanks.
Yes, I want to thank the McLean High School PTSA for organizing a large community meeting about the overcrowding at McLean High School. And it was Mr. Sneed's last community meeting.
Oh, wow.
So we presented the CIP, and as interim measures for McLean High School, modifications will be made to their science labs over the summer, and a modular building will be coming in. I also met with a group of Boy Scouts also to talk about the overcrowding at McLean High School, and I will be meeting with the Langley PTSA in March also talking about the CIP. So I appreciate all these well-attended, thoughtful community meetings. Thank you.
Mr. Moon, you stepped away from the table.
Thank you, but I heard Mr. McElveen mentioning my name, that I was happy to be at a couple of graduations, 2 for 2, as you said, with several colleagues of mine. Ever since Mr. McElveen became a school board member 8 years ago, between he and I, there had been a sort of competition as to who attends more graduations throughout the county. And I'm gonna certainly miss him because he's not going to be here from next year. But as far as this year is concerned, the race is on, Mr. McElveen. Other than that, in addition to that, I did go to Corbin Run Elementary School on January 9th to participate in packing more than 30,000 meals for Langley Pyramid's Rise Against Hunger. Always great to see entire, pyramid schools participating. But at this time, it went beyond our own schools. We saw parents and students from private schools as well. There was a great event. I want to thank the organizers, and all the parents and students who participated. And also on January 16th, I was at Robinson Secondary School to watch championship wrestling matches. And our own Robinson Secondary School became, I don't know how many times, maybe 3, 4 times in the last several years, becoming a state champion.
Thank you. Just want to follow up on your Grand Involve announcement. It is on February 26th at the Burke Center Library, so I hope to see people there. I know that Ms. Dernack-Koufax will be there, and it is a wonderful organization that supports all of our Title I schools in Mount Vernon and rolling out to all of the Lee ones as well. I also want to remind people that on March 2nd, there will be the Real Food for Kids event at Hayfield High School, or Hayfield Secondary School. Please come out. It's a wonderful way of seeing how innovative our students can be in preparing meals, and there's a competition associated with it. Also, on the 26th of February, we will be having a joint budget and CIP meeting with the Board of Supervisors, and that will be over at Gatehouse. And so I encourage people who would like to hear more about the conversation between the two boards to show up. I know that there will be some important conversations about sustainable energy in our schools, as well as budget planning, and we should know more as a result of the end of the legislative session in Richmond to know what we'll be receiving from our state appropriators as well. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.